Hola, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, profe.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
¿Todo bien?
Me alegro.
No sé qué pasó con el Zoom. Estoy conectada de hace rato.
Sí, no, es que es que yo no tenía el enlace,
Ah, ok.
no me había dado el enlace. Mandarme lo enviaron y escribí antes de la hora de la clase y no me lo mandaron, sino fue hasta cuando a las 2:30 que Sally me contactó y desde ese entonces estamos tratando de esperar el enlace, pero dice que no, no se lo podía mandar, que usted no se lo podía mandar y bueno, hasta ahorita me mandó fue el ID de la reunión para que yo pudiera entrar.
Ok.
Ok. Ya los parámetros se leyeron, empiezo, no sé, me avisa, por
No sé,
favor.
todavía no hay ningún estudiante.
Es que nadie se va a conectar, esta es una clase que se va a grabar.
Ah, ok, voy.
Sí.
Ya puede iniciar, profe Mixeli.
Ya, pero los parámetros se leyeron, ya eso es lo que quiero saber.
Muy buenas tardes, chicos. Mi nombre es Cindy Solís. Hoy soy la moderadora de esta sesión y le voy a dar unos parámetros para que la profesora Mixeli Peralta pueda iniciar con la clase. La sesión se graba, pueden verla nuevamente en plataforma virtual. Les solicitamos que por favor silencien su micrófono y puedan activarlo cuando quieran hacer consulta o aporte, con el permiso del docente. Les pedimos que mantenga su cámara activa. De no poder hacerlo, enviar su excusa por el chat de Zoom. De lo contrario, será retirado de la sesión y le estarán restando puntos en la heteroevaluación del docente. Mi rol como moderador es facilitar y apoyar en la parte técnica. Consulta por el chat personal o general. Les exhorto a tener bolígrafo y papel para hacer sus anotaciones y aprovechar al máximo esta sesión. Esta sesión tiene un tiempo de duración de 60 minutos. Sin mucho que agregar, la dejo con la profesora Mixeli Peralta.
Okay, good afternoon, dear students. We are going to start our session. This is our seventh session from this course of Composition 2. We are going to discuss and develop during this class how to write a narrative essay. That is the main objective for this class. Remember that this is our class number 7. We have one more and we will finish this course of composition second. So the first thing that we need to do is to read the instructions before we start the class. Okay, so in every session we have to do it. So dear student, it is important to follow instructions. This simple step will help you achieve success in your learning. The first thing you should do is locate yourself in a comfortable place with enough light and without distractions. So please turn off the TV and cell phone if necessary. Read the objective carefully. They will help you understand what you want to learn. To make it easier for you to learn the subject, the document is divided into 5 parts called modules. Do not skip tasks and complete each one of them in the given order. So we have been working during this course the different ways in which we can write essays, okay? And for this module particularly, we will discuss narrative essay, the different ways to write a narrative essay, and an example of that in our last session. So remember that writing an essay is like searching your soul. Have you ever thought, why do professors or your teachers assign you this writing task? Why don't they simply ask you to express yourself in an oral form? The logic behind their asking you to write essay is fairly simple. It is easy for you to express yourself more logically when you write an essay. You can achieve these skills with oral activity. By writing simple essays, you grow your creativity skills like writing, speaking, or how to think logically. Writing in a peaceful environment helps you polish all these skills and broaden your way of thinking. Writing is a skill not only used in essays. If you look further in education, you will know that there are a lot of other writing assignments waiting for you, like research papers, term papers, coursework, homework, dissertations, thesis papers, and many more. All these writing assignments require excellent writing skills to complete them successfully, and these skills can only be achieved by writing essays and practicing, okay? So do not forget that. Now, I'm going to start sharing the screen with you. ¿Me puede habilitar, por favor, para compartir la pantalla?
Ok, voy. Listo.
No, no se permite. Dice que no
Ya.
está. Ahora sí. Ok. This is module number 5. It seems like yesterday when we started working with this course, and now this is module number 5. Unbelievable. Okay, so what is a narrative essay? That's the question, okay? A narrative essay tells a story with vivid details and personal insight. Unlike other forms of academic writing, it allows for creativity and personal expression while still requiring a structure and coherence. A strong narrative essay includes a clear introduction, a well-developed plot, engaging characters, and a meaningful conclusion. The goal is to immerse the reader in the story while message or insight. Effective narrative essays use vivid descriptions, sensory details, and a clear chronological order to bring the story to life. Okay, the objective for these modules are recognize the structure of a narrative writing and its features, and identify and follow the steps to write a narrative essay correctly. Now, what is a narrative essay? Narrative essays make an argument or impart a lesson through personal experience. Narrative essays are always non-fiction and usually autobiographical. They are written with a more creative style versus the strictly objective, fact-based language of academic writing or journalism. Now, this is very interesting because they mention that the narrative essays are always non-fiction. That means that are true stories, okay? And usually are biografías, autobiografías, ¿sí? O sea que en el narrative essay nosotros en 95%, para no decir un porcentaje más alto, ustedes van a utilizar hechos reales. No vamos a hablar sino que son cosas reales. Now, here we have a picture that shows us the narrative essay structure. We have the introduction, that is the exposition with the hook. Remember that the introduction includes a hook and a background information about the topic that you will be developing, and the thesis statement, that is the most important part in the introduction, and for me, in the whole essay. And remember that beside that, you will have the body that will be made up by 3 body paragraphs that will develop the 3 main ideas that you will write in the thesis statement. And then we have the body, that is the resolution at the end or conclusion, in which you will make like a summary of all the essay, and you will have to include in the final thoughts the restatement of the thesis statement. That means that you will write again the thesis statement, but using different words, okay? Let's move on. Now, let's see what is the difference between narrative essays and short stories, okay? Narrative essays usually contain vivid descriptions, plot, characters, and dialogue, just like a short story. This overlap in a structural element makes sense, but there are some key differences, and here is how to distinguish a narrative essay from a short story. A narrative essay aims to put forward a point or argument, and the author will weave the entire piece of writing around the theme with no extraneous elements. Short stories are often more open to interpretation. Similarly, a narrative essay wraps up conclusively and aims to leave the reader with no hanging questions. Short stories tend to have a more abstract moral or message. Narrative essays are usually written in the first person, narrative essays, okay? And narrative essays follow a typical research paper structure. They have an introduction, body, and a conclusion. Short stories can take any format, so they are not like structures. Okay, now here we have that the narrative essays focus on a clear point or argument written in the first person, follows a traditional structure, including the introduction, body, and conclusion, aims to leave no questions or ambiguity, and uses vivid descriptions and details to support the argument. Now, the short stories, they have open to interpretation, can be written in various point of view, flexible structure, no strict format, and often has an abstract moral or message. May have an open-ended or ambiguous conclusion, okay? And here we have how to craft a story using the basic elements of a structure, okay? We have the beginning, the middle, and the conclusion. Remember that in the beginning, you will have the exposition, and then in the middle, you will show the conflict, the rising action, and the climax will be reached on this point. And then when you are going to write the conclusion, it's like the falling action and the resolution, okay? So you can have a narrative essay outline like this. Introduction, write the hook, write the background, write the thesis. Remember that this is an outline. That means kind of a draft that is not what you will present to your professor or to your teacher or to or the document that is going to be published, okay? The hook, the background, and then the thesis, and you will have to write the body, the event, the turning point, the climax, and resolution. And then in the conclusion, you will have to write the thesis restatement, what I was mentioning before. You will write the moral, if there is something that we will learn from the essay, and the final words, okay? This is just a guide, but you can do it in your own. Okay, now we have here, what is the format of a narrative essay? Regardless of length, narrative essays follow the same basic structure, okay? What is this same basic structure? Well, introduction, body paragraph, and conclusions. The introduction, this starts with a hook to engage the reader and goes on the sketch out the theme of the essay without giving too much away, okay? I have always recommend you guys to choose the correct info for the introduction. Remember that I always says that you cannot give the reader the whole information and the most important part of the information at the beginning, because after they read the introduction, they won't have a they won't feel attracted or engaged with the essay, because in the introduction is everything. You told everything in the introduction, so after they read that, they will say, okay, this is enough, I know what is going to happen in the story, okay, in the essay. So the thing is to try to engage and call your readers' attention using the correct hook and introduction. Remember, correct hook, background, and thesis statement, because all of these three elements are, and they made up the introduction. Now, we have the body paragraph, okay? The body paragraph, this is where the author builds her arguments by describing scenes and events in detail, developing characters and crafting constructive dialogue. Remember that most of the time you will have a topic sentence in the body paragraph, and you will have to provide details and sentences that supports that topic sentence, okay? And the conclusion, which is the short reflection at the end of the essay that sums up the preceding paragraph and drive home the point, okay? Now, we have here 4 types of narrative writing, okay? We will see some of the most common narrative writing, okay? Narrative essay. Here we have the linear narrative, non-linear narrative, quest narrative, the viewpoint narrative, and more, this is really important here. We have, let me go back. I lost, se me fue el mouse. Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, so we have how to choose interesting narrative essay topics, okay? This is like an advice for us. First, okay, share emotional life experiences for connection. Choose relatable topics for reader engagement. Opt for detailed topics with vibrant descriptions. Share insights for added depth. Keep your narrative organized with a logical flow, and add intrigue with unexpected twist. Narrate personal development for a compelling story. Craft expressive, valuable dialogue. Explore cultural intersections for a unique perspective. Balance emotion with reflective insights. Capture attention with a powerful start, and tailor your narrative to resonate your readers, okay? Okay, now, choosing the correct topic for writing an essay, it's, we can say, the most important, okay? Because if you choose the correct topic, the essay will flow smoothly, probably, because you need to write about things that you feel comfortable talking about, things that you are that you master, or that you are like a person that knows a lot about the topic. It doesn't make any sense if you choose a topic that you don't know anything, okay? So you have to try to choose a topic in which you feel attracted, you have this connection, you have the knowledge to write about. Okay, so let's discuss and let's talk about popular narrative essay topics, okay? So narrative essays are based on personal experiences, and as such, the topics vary widely. The key thing to remember is that all narrative essays need to make a point or argument. And here are some things to think about when coming up with ideas for a narrative essay. At times you overcome adversity, fear, or failure. Remember that we are talking that we mentioned that narrative essays are non-fiction, okay? So that means that you will have to write about something that is true. The number 2 says, the first time you experience some life event and how it changed you. The story of a relationship you had with someone and what you learned. At times, you deviated from social expectations and what that meant to you. A life-changing childhood incident or a story from your family life or travels that shaped you, okay? So these are some of the things that you can take into consideration or things that you can think about when you are writing a popular narrative, when you are choosing a narrative essay topic, okay? Basically, you are going to write about your own experience, something that you have faced, that you have learned, and so on. Now, here we have 13 tips for writing a narrative essay. While you already have everything you need to write a personal story, the writing process for a narrative essay can be intimidating. It can help to break the process into 3 key stages: picking a topic, writing, and revising. Remember, every time that you write, you need to revise what you write. You cannot send the document or publish the document if you haven't revised the document, because we make mistakes, and that's okay. That's why this is a stage in the writing process that is revising, so you can check for grammar, spelling, structure, and so on, coherence, okay? So the first one says, spend time reading narrative essay examples. They will not only familiarize you with the format, but they might also contain ideas that you want to respond to or develop in your own direction. You can read different narrative essays, not to copy them, but to have an idea. When you read some essays, they are clear example and they help you out to write your own, okay? Think about how you can tell a coming of age story. Regardless of your actual age, you are looking for those life experiences that contain this kind of personal growth or revelation. Go narrow rather than broad. A narrative essay about what you did last summer will quickly become unmanageable. Focus on one particular surfing accident or family food that happened, and you will have a total piece of work, okay? Then we have, give weight to the details. If you are tossing up between multiple topics, consider which give you more scope to expand on details in an interesting way. Are there both sides, unusual settings, or huge characters? Can you write dialogue that approximates what actually happened? Those factors might sway your decision, okay? Outline the plot and stick to chronology. You might want to play with your timeline a little, perhaps pulling out a dramatic moment and using it as the hook for your introduction, or inserting a flashback where it's poignant. But for the most part, your essay will be easier to read the more it flows chronologically. So don't feel pressure to subvert that structure. Writing in a chronological way, it's very important because you are going to tell the reader how the different events occurs, the order that they occurs, and it's easier for the reader to understand what really happens because it has an order. Can you imagine reading something that occurs at the middle of the story, at the beginning, and then what occurs at the beginning, in the middle? I mean, that will be crazy, okay? And we don't want that. We want to have an order. Then we have find your antagonist. It doesn't have to be an actual person. It might be a behavior, place, condition, social norm, or anything else that is stopping you from progressing. The tension between the antagonist and the protagonist usually is the source of tension that keeps the reader interested, okay? Then we have tell yourself this is just the draft. Okay, this is not the final presentation. This is just a draft. The quest for perfection is your enemy. Just get words onto the page. You can judge them in the revision phase. Play with language, okay? Now let's see what it means. When you have a license to write creatively, the temptation is to use a lot of adjectives and adverbs. However, you will paint a more vivid picture for readers if rather than telling them they are in a bustling market, you show them its size, noises, smells, and activities, okay? So it means that if you use a lot of adjectives to describe what really happens, it's better for the reader because the reader can have a picture or can picture in his or her mind what really happens in the story, okay? Even though you don't have an illustration in the essay, okay? But the readers, while he or she reads, they can have an idea of what happened, how were the different events in the story. Then we have include moments of scenes and analysis. The former is a slow-paced unfolding of events. The latter is a way to speed up and summarize intervals between scenes while reflecting on the theme. A good story will have both elements, okay? So include moments of scenes and analysis. And when they said that you have to play with the language, it means that try to include as much details as you can in the story, okay? Using adjectives that are words that describe things or adverbs, okay? Then we have pick one point of view. First person point of view and past tense are almost always the most natural for a narrative essay. But whatever you choose, don't switch perspective midway. It's rarely effective, okay? Now, make sure your point comes across. This is the time to reflect on how well the narrative you have written captures your argument. You might cut extraneous material or make ideas more explicit at some points in the text. Look for moments of scenes and analysis. There should be a nice balance. Okay, so everything needs to have a balance. And it's very important to make all the details and everything to flow in a really smooth way. Make sure your point comes across and pay particular attention to your introduction. These are the paragraphs that will determine whether your audience keeps reading or can give it extra attention. Look for an intriguing hook and ensure you have foreshadowed the major theme. Proofread and check your formatting. This is very important. Sections of dialogue in particular might involve punctuation conventions that you are not used to. Make sure you have used quotation marks around any spoken text, attributed it to a character, and inserted lines, breaks every time the identity of the speaker changes, okay? Now we will watch a short video about part of a structure and story elements.
Planning and writing a narrative. Part 1. Structure and story elements. In this video, we are going to learn what a narrative is, the basic structure narratives follow, and the story elements that narratives have. What is a narrative? A narrative is a story. Its purpose is to entertain. Think about stories or narratives that you have read, seen in the movies, or seen on TV. What general structure do they follow? Narratives are all structured in a similar way. They begin with an introduction, often called an orientation. After the orientation is the problem, and then the solution. This chart shows how the excitement in a narrative builds as the story progresses. Let's look at each of these in a bit more detail, starting with the orientation. The orientation serves a very important purpose in a narrative. It introduces the reader to the characters in the story and the setting. The setting is the where and the when of the story. Perhaps the story is about some friends exploring a futuristic city, or maybe the story is a tale of an adventurer who is exploring the high seas on a sailing boat. After the orientation comes the problem, which is sometimes referred to as the complication. The problem is the most exciting part of the narrative. It's where something goes wrong for our main characters. Perhaps someone gets lost in the city with no way to get home, or maybe the adventurer's sailing boat hits a reef and begins to sink. After the problem comes the solution. This is where the writer solves the problem. What quick thinking will help our character who is lost find their way back to their family? Or what will our adventurer do to escape his life and death situation? We usually separate the orientation, the problem, and the solution into their own paragraphs as a way to organize our writing. And if the narrative is quite long, the writer will use more paragraphs. This is the basic structure of a narrative. In the next video, we'll be looking at the language elements authors use to write narratives. Easy teaching.
Okay, so it mentioned the different structures or and elements of a narrative, okay? When you write a narrative text, okay? Now, let's see. I will show you the video from the platform. Okay, so this video, even though it didn't provide us an audio, okay, it highlight a lot of things that we need to take into consideration when we write a narrative essay. Remember that the main objective is that you try to explain and speak in a first person, number one, that you can express the different ideas like you are telling a story, okay? Like you are telling the story. It's very important to do that. And try to use an appropriate background. Background, it's lo que uno conoce como una información previa al tema, ¿sí? Previa al tema. Entonces, con esta información previa, usted lee, hace que el lector como que tenga una idea de lo que era, lo que usted va a hablar antes, and what is at the moment, what is happening at the moment, okay? What is the real situation now? You provide the background information, then you move to the reality, to the now, and then you explain how it affects you or how it has something to deal with you in your reality nowadays, okay? Choose the correct and the appropriate hook. Remember that for the hook, you can choose a question, could be a quote, okay? It's very important. Provide historical background. The most important is not like a story about the background of what you are going to talk about. It's not like that. It's just como un pantallazo, okay? The background information, and then you will focus in the now, okay? In your reality. And after that, you have to write the thesis statement, providing the three main ideas that you will focus on in the essay, okay? Now, for this module, I will explain you what are the activities that you will have to do for this module, okay? For this module, particularly, you will have 3 assignments. The first one is a forum. Okay, in this forum, you will have to answer to 2 questions. What is a narrative essay? And what is narrative writing used for? These 2 questions, okay? What is a narrative essay? And what is narrative writing used for? This is the forum. Remember that this is graded, okay? Esto lleva evaluación. The activity number 2, you will have to write a narrative essay, okay? And this narrative essay, it's about your most enjoyable Christmas, okay? That means something that you experience. It's non-fiction. Ustedes van a contar la Navidad que más han disfrutado. Van a escribir sobre esto, okay? And this essay must have 5 paragraphs. Remember, the first paragraph is the introduction. The next 3 paragraphs are the body paragraph. That means the paragraph that will develop the 3 main ideas in the thesis statement, and the conclusion. Let me show you here, okay? Give me just 1 second, because this can be confusing for you. Here, there is a mistake. It says 5 paragraph, clearly, okay? But here it says, sorry, let me go back. Okay, here it says 1 paragraph for the introduction, 2 paragraph for the body, and 1 paragraph for the conclusion. That means 4 paragraphs, okay? But they are not 4 paragraphs, they are 5 paragraphs, okay? It says 5. So that means that the mistake was here. Aquí está el error. No eran 2, sino 3, okay? 3 body paragraphs. Son 3 body paragraphs lo que nosotros estamos pidiéndoles a ustedes. So you are going to write the essay about your most enjoyable Christmas. This is the title, but you can change it, okay? Ustedes pueden inventarse un título. Ustedes pueden usar ese mismo, The Most Enjoyable Christmas. Pueden utilizarlo, pero ustedes pueden inventarse uno propio, related to that, relacionado al tema que es The Most Enjoyable Christmas, okay? And you have to choose the appropriate thesis statement. That is the most important. If you want to have a very good essay, you will need to choose the appropriate ideas that you would like to develop in the thesis statement, okay? Now, ¿qué cosas podemos mencionar en este tema de Most Enjoyable Christmas? ¿Qué hizo? Digamos que usted dice que la Navidad más divertida que usted tuvo, la que disfrutó más, fue en 2015. This is an example, ok, un ejemplo. 2015, 2015. ¿Qué hizo que en el 2015 esa Navidad fuera tan buena? Aquí es donde ustedes entonces tienen que elegir. Ah, no, es que esa Navidad mi familia de Chiriquí vino a mi casa, por ejemplo. La comida, esa Navidad la comida tuvo top, 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 top. O el regalo que recibí, ¿ok? Entonces usted tiene que elegir eso. Y en el thesis statement usted va a poner the most enjoyable Christmas I had was in 2015 because of the food, because of the family time, and because of the presents or the gift. ¿Ok? Y luego en cada uno de los párrafos que siguen, usted va a desarrollar. Why the food? ¿Qué tipo de especial es esa comida? En ese párrafo usted se va a enfocar just to talk about the food. And then in the second paragraph, the family time, okay? El tiempo en familia. No, because my family came from Chiriquí and I enjoy spending time with them. I had 5 years without seeing them. Something like that, okay? Tenía tanto tiempo que no los veía, etc. Second paragraph, focus on that, okay? And the third one, dije lo último, and the gift, the presents, okay? Y los regalos. This Christmas was memorable for me because during this Christmas I received my car, a new car, okay, a brand new car. Me regalaron un auto, recibí un auto nuevo. Entonces, you have to mention, you have to provide sentences that support your main idea in each paragraph. Y luego entonces venimos y hacemos nuestra conclusion. Remember to include and use a lot of adjective because the adjective provides the reader a better view of what you are talking about. El lector tiene una mejor vista, ¿sí? De lo que le están contando, de lo que se le está diciendo. Y esto es bien importante, esto es bien valioso para el lector, porque no hay nada mejor que la persona se pueda hacer una idea de lo que están hablando. Y no sé ustedes, pero yo comentaba en clases anteriores que hay momentos que uno lee y la persona usó tantos detalles que tú vas uniendo cada uno de ellos y en tu cabeza vas dibujando una idea. Vas dibujando lo que estás leyendo en palabras, se traduce en tu mente como una escena. And that is what we want, okay? Eso es lo que queremos. So remember that the paragraph can be made up by 5 sentences if you have good ones, okay? 5 good sentences. And the last activity that you will have is the test, okay? The test related about the whole module. Por eso yo siempre les digo que esperen a que se complete el módulo para que hagan el test, porque el test es de todo el módulo. Y recuerden que toda la información que se utiliza para el PowerPoint presentation belongs and it's from the reader, from the reading, the readings that we have here. Se sacan de aquí, de las lecturas que tenemos, que la misma plataforma las proporciona para ustedes. De allí sacamos entonces la información que se les comparte en el PPT. So, do not forget to check the library, okay? Pueden visitar la biblioteca virtual si tienen alguna duda, if you want to read a little bit more about something, quieren leer algo, quieren aprender y estar un poquito más claros con el tema, digamos, de los adjectives, porque van a escribir tratando de usar bastantes details. Well, you can check the platform, ok, pueden referirse a la biblioteca virtual para buscar libros relacionados con eso. Recuerden que ustedes tienen acá los accesos y complementary materials, so you can check in the virtual library the different ebooks, okay? And if you have questions, don't forget and don't hesitate to open a consultation forum, and I will be glad to answer you back if you have a question, something to say, something to add. no se limiten, abran un foro de consulta, escríbanme allí, con mucho gusto les voy a responder. Recuerden, nos queda una clase. So see you next Monday. Nos vemos ahorita en 2 días, ¿ok? See you next Monday for our last session to complete this module about narrative essay. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here and see you soon again. Bye. Terminamos la sesión. Hola, terminamos.
Ok.
Gracias.